And we're thinking about how these people are protected and hidden and all that, and I start wondering, well, then how do people know it's actually happening? It's all hidden, so where is it? I was telling Morgan that my years ago my mother told me we were driving past some street corner and there was a provocatively dressed woman standing on the street corner, and my mom said, "Oh, that's a prostitute." And I said, "How do you know that, Mom?" She's just a woman standing on the street. So people stand on streets.
Well, you can.
If I stand on the street, am I a prostitute?
If you're
well, she's standing in one place, and she's dressed in certain clothes, and yeah, but can't other so anyone who dresses in clothes like that is a prostitute? Well, not exactly. Well, anyone who stands on the street corner is a prostitute all the time.
Well, you can pick up, pimps, and once you see things like that. Like I was in Mexico about a week ago. I went to a club with Ian. We were going in the club, and I actually saw two 12-year-old prostitutes. And
how do you know they were 12 years old?
Oh, they maybe were younger than 12.
You mean it was really obvious?
It was obvious. They were young, and they didn't even look Hispanic.
How do you know they were prostitutes?
Because they were with their pimp. It was.
How do you know they were with their pimp?
Because he's asking around to see who wants to buy them.
Oh, did he ask you?
Yeah, he was a big black dude in the nicest suit I've ever seen.
And there's two young girls with him.
He was talking to them. He was trying to teach them something. They just asked if you're interested. I wanted to talk to the girls, but I was not about to do that. And he was talking to them, trying to. It was like a pep talk almost. It was weird. But they didn't even look like they were from Mexico. I'm thinking that was a different. It was like more fair skinned, but they didn't speak English. It was weird.
Well, if you're gonna make your life easy as a pimp, you have to be very good at psychology. You gotta really understand how to manipulate people, how to make them feel.
And I think that's why
you're the safest person to be with. That's what he's trying to do. And
they're good at it too.
You think that's why women have what?
Well, it's obvious. Well, I get all the time. How come guys aren't? Guys can be trafficked. Well, no, unless you're like 16 or under. Like people, little boys and stuff.
No, there's not. You mean there's not a international traffic trade in old geezers who hard bitten old men.
Exactly.
I am old timey.
Which is weird because that's.
I hate being here.
It's totally a society-based thing, and it's just interesting to talk to Ian.
Have you heard of the chocolate slaves?
Chocolate.
The chocolate slaves?
I've not.
If you Google Cadbury chocolate, you'll probably find out about this. But there's one form of activism right now is making a lot of noise about how the chocolate plantations in Africa, in different places, depend on what is effectively slave labor, and this is men and women. So it's not sex trafficking, but there is.
That's still trafficking.
It's genuine trafficking in slaves. They're actual slaves. They get some are tricked into it or trapped into it or whatever, but it's slavery in the sense that it's the classic. You come here, but then in order to take this job, you have to pay us money up front for us to give you a job. And then until you pay us back, you can't leave.
Or they do it with the visas in America.
Right, they take away their visas and all that stuff. And the chocolate plantations, apparently the chocolate companies know that this is happening and are turning a blind eye to it. And some people are starting to agitate and say, you have to do more to stop this practice. So there's straight up slavery, actually, it's slightly disguised slavery.
And that's what I tell people when they ask about guys being trafficked. It's more workforce traffic. If an older guy, gets taken, it's because he's going to be working in a restaurant. And there's a video on that I was watching where it was like a Latino dude, and he got stuck working in a restaurant like 15-hour days, and they wouldn't give him his visa unless,
So it seems like what we have to analyze, and understand what perpetuates that system. And one thing it seems to be is people not knowing Well, of course, big thing is money.
That's all it is.
That's creating motivation. But I mean, it's the money isn't why the slaves stay. They're not staying because they're paid.
Well, and
No, but why are they going?
money's not why
This is-
they
this
They're
is
attracted
everything.
to money, but then
This
they
is
don't get
everything.
money.
The only reason they're
This is
getting
everything.
the money is the people are wanting the sex. That's the only reason there's no business if people aren't looking for
Even
that.
if people didn't want the sex, guess what? There's always going to be something else. Like you said, there's going to be these factories of people. Someone's always going to want a product because that's what
But what is
capitalism
it? Just
is.
physical threats, fences that keep these people in?
It's not
where
fences.
They
They could. I bet a lot of those people in the work thing could leave it they want. But like you said, they're so good with psychology and how, you're not going to get this job if you don't pay this. You're going to have to work it off. Your visa's not going to get, we're going to boot you and you're going to get picked up by the feds. And it's like, and that's why a lot of people, what was it even with the homelessness here? A lot of these kids who are my age, even in Loveland, who they're not showing up at the House and Neighborly Services and the shelters because most of them get picked up and get tagged by the government and then they're on record. And they don't want that to happen, so they won't even show up to these places to get fed and clothed during the winter. So I think a lot of it is for those people too,
So
if I get
mistrust
picked up with the government
of
and get kicked
mistrust
back.
of government, mistrust of any services that might help them, combined with lack of knowledge about
A
what
lot
to
of
do
lack of
anyway.
knowledge about anything
And combined with also they're out of public view. We don't really see this. It'd be a challenge to drive around Loveland like, okay, point me out the house where the slaves are in. How would you know? How can you prove that?
I think it's like the same things. Yeah, I think you have to be a certain type of people to know how to find it. Like with the Craigslist thing, sure, the typical person's not going to know that because they're not looking for that.
Is
I
there
guess if
anyone in
you're
the
looking
field
for
who
it-
is looking for it, is finding it, and is dealing with it? Is there anybody at all in the world who knows how to do that?
There has to be a lot of people because there's been a good amount of busts. I mean, through the videos you showed me, that one guy who went to Indonesia or whatever, and 112 children, or what was it called? That's what they're called now, 101,
143 or 146.
146 or something.
Yeah, there's quite a lot out there
So
that are doing some things.
People find it. Like Craigslist, it wasn't hard for me at all to find that when I actually typed it in as if I was going to buy something. I mean, so if you're one of those people who are looking
Another
for it,
good
it's not hard to...
resource are some of the homeless people that we're starting to talk to, because they are on the street and they are, they're kind of like, they are the undercover people.
I kind of like to see someone do a project where what they do is they find a way to search Craigslist for this stuff. And then they create a website called something like human trafficking on Craigslist.com. And when you go there, it automatically runs the searches and it says, as of this moment, this is all the human trafficking going on Craigslist. Based on these searches or based on these this method. Because I could go to Craigslist and go like, I don't even know what search to try. What do I type in? Slaves? I want some slaves? I don't know.
It was under the weirdest thing.
Sex?
No,
do you
it was
go
under-
prostitute?
It was under
Escorts?
luxury or something.
Luxury.
It was under something really random. It wasn't under men seeking women. I couldn't find it, and then I went to some random one, and it popped up, and I was like, yeah, they hide it very well.
So they hide it, but you found it. But you can make it easier for other people to find it
It's a
if
good
you can.
idea.
Yeah,
If you
like
can
what you're saying, I think it's
publicize this.
the same thing. Like,
That could be the service that you consider. Consider that. Think about providing a service like that. If you could in any way make it easier to see this problem, to actually see it, like to make Craigslist a little more easy to see. I get frustrated when I try to find anything on Craigslist. I get completely frustrated. So I just immediately give up.